So what we've got tonight, I'm going to continue my uh, series on learning to turn, and I'm going to show you here in a moment. I have some Bic stick ink pens, and I'm going to use the ink cartridge from the Bic stick. Let me show you this pen right here, the venerable old Bic stick. Um, Black ink, medium point, been around forever. I am going to turn a piece of cherry to accept this cartridge. Put the cap aside. This thing, you just kind of pinch it here on the end. This part right here, you just pinch that, and they pull out relatively easy. So I'm going to lay the body aside, grab my tape measure, and we will get a length on our cartridge here. I need it to be about 4 and let's say hair more than 3/4. Now I'm planning to drill about 4 7/8. Here we go. I grabbed these 9/64 bits. They are 6-inch, a little longer than 6-inch. Pre-marked there with a piece of painter's tape, and snug that down a little bit so I can chuck it later. All right. Measuring, marking center. Both ends punching with my center punch, and now I'm setting up the lathe, and we find out that it's a bit long even after, because I didn't count for the taper of the tailstock. So I'm cutting an inch off relatively quickly. All right. Now I'm setting up to drill out the center of the pen blank, not realizing how flexible that small diameter drill bit is. And so not realizing that I had drilled out the back of the blank and until later. You can see it. I couldn't see it. Alright, so I grab another piece of material. This is walnut, and I'm about to repeat the very same mistake. There we go. You can see what's going on now. And set that up. Take time to make sure that it's plumb. And still have no idea that I'm drilling at a long angle and can't see that the drill is actually going to drill out the back again. I know there are ways to do this, but without a lathe large enough to chuck the bit and then use it as a center drill where the material spins and the drill bit is stationary. It's not really going to work out. So I grab a third piece of material, and this is a dowel. It's maple, and it's 7/8 of an inch. I'll get that chucked, and then I go to plan B, which is to make another honey dipper. And the problem with this little lathe, it will overheat but then there's also, due to the vibrations, and this is the same problem with my 3018 CNC, there's so much vibration that one or the other of the electrical contact wires will slip off the pole of the motor, and then you get a situation where it either shorts or it doesn't run at all, and you have to get in there and put it back in place. Not that it's a bad thing for the machine to have a little cooling off time. Alright, so we're getting everything adjusted, and we started to round off the tail there close to the headstock. And added my lines with 6-inch material. I think symmetrically it looks best if you have relatively even on the for the little grip, and then also for the business end of the honey dipper. And this is where I'm just letting it cool down a little bit, and then remember to get in there and check that power lead. But in the meantime, while the machine is cooling, I go over and adjust the tracking. I replaced the bandsaw blade Sunday, and was wondering why it couldn't get it to stay on the wheels, and so I had to look up the manual for this bandsaw. It's about 40 years old. The Protec is a brand that was sold by Walmart in the 1980s. Alright, and so there we are. We figured out the power lead. We're getting ready to get back to business. Alright. Relatively low torque for such a high spinning machine. So I took my parting tool and roughed out the head of the honey dipper, made our indentations about a third of the way through, cleaning out that screw head for the tool rest. Moving down, and we're going along. Tool rest for this machine is only 2 inches wide, and so there's a lot of movement to be able to do the project. So we turn a little and we move a little, turn low and we move a little. And the angle there, because the shaft of the tool is 1/2 inch, you're actually attacking from above, and so you've got to raise up the rear of the tool so that the blade comes down and contacts the surface at the right angle to cut. And there we go, we got a loose power lead, and I also discovered that the shaft of that little alright, there we go. Yeah, the shaft of that little 80-watt spindle gets really, really hot. Right. So my idea is to make the handle of the honey dipper taper down to a point, but I was having a lot of trouble getting a good angle of attack to do that. The tool is large and the space is small. So I'll work on that as time goes on. But the idea is to, do a few videos on learning to turn and, find a few projects that I can do. And so pretty much done. We're sanding, run through a couple of grits of sandpaper. I did not go from 100 down to 600. I went from 100 grit to 150 grit, and then I decided to go ahead and try to part off and cleaned up the last couple of indentations toward the end where the honey dipper tapers down to the end. Doing some sanding, clean up the top of the handle and clean up the All right, so another somewhat successful attempt at turning. Got a better result this time than before. I'm still having some issues with the way that the little tiny lathe that could, it doesn't have a consistent speed and it doesn't have a consistent grip on the material. So what we get is some stops and starts and some chatter with the tool. But all in all, I do have a functional product. Not sure I'm quite there on selling the product yet, but they are fun to make, and the process will get better as I go along. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.